right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Zone. This is the Austin Zone, and I'm your host, Raul Trevino. Today, we're going to be spending some time with Austin's own Sharon Bourbonnais. Sharon is an accomplished musician, and I think quite arguably a leader in the Austin music community, with such notable achievements as her Women in Music series and the Rock and Gospel Project. And a particular Austin favorite is the Hippie Church, which pairs the Rock and Gospel Project with another perennial Austin favorite, Maria's Taco Express. We'll be talking about that and so much more today, but right now, please help me welcome my friend and Austin's own Sharon Bourbonnais.
Hey, Raul. What a nice welcome. Thank you.
All right. Sharon, welcome to the show, and I can't thank you enough for agreeing to be my first guest on this inaugural flight for the podcast. I couldn't think of anyone I'd rather start this off with, and our long friendship and history is helping me keep the butterflies in check.
There you go.
So before we do start, I'd just like to let our viewers and listeners know a little bit about what we're doing here with the concept of the zone. We're going to be talking to real Austin people about the arts, science, food, and whatever else I said on the Facebook page. We don't have a website yet, so more to come on that. The point of the show is basically storytelling. These are going to be interesting and fascinating people with stories to tell. We'll start each show with our guests' history and talk about their Austin story, get them to open up about their projects and current activities, and wrap up with their message to our audience. I hope you'll enjoy the format and getting to know our guests and Austin a little better every time. So we begin?
Sure. Yeah.
So Sharon, I know you, and of course our friends know you, but for our audience, let's assume you just met on a sightseeing paddle boat in the middle of or Lady Bird Lake, as it's known today.
Right.
Or better yet, we're putting together a Netflix documentary on the life of Sharon Bourbonnais. What would you want folks to know about the Sharon story?
Well, she hasn't been formally convicted of a federal crime. But other than that, yeah. I've been doing music all my life. Started piano in the second grade, and that just stuck with me. And I think that's kind of part of my whole being is music / comedian. I always wanted to be a comedian too. So somewhere along the lines, I combined the two and managed to stay out of jail, for the most part.
So you grew up in the Dallas area, is that right?
That's right. Big D, little A, double L.
How was that?
That was really a wonderful upbringing. I lived really close to White Rock Lake. And I went to a little elementary school where they had about 6 Baldwin pianos in a classroom that's where I started piano in the same class as a bunch of other kids. We didn't have electronic keyboards back then, or if we did, they weren't letting us use them. So I continued piano for 4 years, and then my last year in elementary school, I took a year of clarinet, played in the little school band, and when I went to junior high, I actually started in the choir, but I quickly dropped out because it was Squaresville. I was like, oh no, this is not for me. Yeah. So I, kind of hung out with that other crowd and kept playing the piano, and me and my girlfriend would sit at the piano, and one would play the left hand, the other one would go. So we would do duets and switch parts. So that's how I kind of stayed into the music through junior high. And in high school, I bought my first Fender Rhodes electric suitcase piano.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you manage that in high school?
I can't tell you that.
Okay. Were you a good student? How's that?
No, I barely got out of high school. I call it Bryan Adams Get High School. I kept showing up in a certain head state, and they kept sending me home. I went to another school briefly that was for people that weren't really fit for the regular classroom.
Wow.
As Albert would say, the school for wayward women.
Rather than same uniforms, did you? It wasn't.
No, no, I never had to do that. But yeah, some certain things I can't say. But yeah, I managed to graduate high school. Finally, went around the mulberry bush back to Bryan Adams and got my degree. And they almost didn't let me walk because I was using my brother's cap and gown from the years before, and the colors had changed. But I managed to get my diploma. I do have a high school diploma. And shortly after that, I bartended a little while with my mom at Dunstan Steakhouse, and then moved down to South Padre Island with a guy I was dating named Jack Ficklin. And his father was editorial cartoonist for the Dallas Times Herald. And him and I moved down to South Padre and into a trailer at the Jetties. That's when they had that trailer park at the Jetties. I don't even know
I
what year
remember
it
it.
was. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we used to drive around there all the time in high school.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was when the island was wide open,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. Of
Yeah.
course, I always used to go down to South Padre Island for spring break, but I think we called it Easter break or something else.
Yeah, I don't even remember that. Well, we're
Yeah,
repeating
yeah.
ourselves here, but don't
But
remember
that's how I
the
started
concept
going
of,
down there and
yeah, I don't remember
ended up
spring
living.
break being even mentioned until 80s, sometime in the 80s, early
Yeah, it was called something, but
80s. Now you mentioned your brother's cap and gown, and all the time we've known each other. I don't know too much about your brother, or I mean I know about your mom, of course, but anything
right.
that you'd like to talk about your family?
Well, my oldest brother, who died when I was down in Padre, he died early and from some strange disease.
Yeah.
But he was self-taught on violin and 12-string guitar. He was a phenomenal musician.
Wow.
Yeah, and then my brother James, uh, not so much, not
Were
so
your,
much in the music.
were your
My
parents
sister,
musical at all?
yeah, my mom. My mom played the piano, as did her mother and aunt, or my aunt, her sister. All the women played the piano in my family, so that's why it's. And my grandfather, my great grandfather, was actually an organist at Wesleyan College, so he was concertmaster at Wesleyan College. So and I have one of his old violins.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a lot of music history in my
Yeah.
family.
And you mentioned two brothers and a sister. I had no idea. And all the time we've known each other, I had no idea you
Yeah,
had so many siblings, such a large family.
right. I was the baby, so I got away with everything.
So how far apart are y'all?
We're all like about stair steps, about 2, 3 years apart, each of us.
Family
Yeah.
trips? Are there any family trips?
Oh, yes. Yes. Our family trips consisted of us piling in the back of a station wagon, picking up my mom from work. She was the head waitress at the Black Garter Club, which was a very place in Dallas, very fancy. Had legs coming out for the things to open the door with a garter on it. And yeah, she was quite beautiful. And I mean, Les Brown and his Band of Renown played there. It was a really swinging hot spot where my mom worked. So we'd go pick her up like at 2 a.m. and drive straight down to Galveston. And we'd all have cots and mosquito netting, and we'd camp out on the beach for 3 or 4 days. That was our
And
vacation.
so guessing, what was that, about a 4 or 5 hour drive from Dallas?
Yeah, yeah, from Dallas. Yeah, through Houston. Yeah, on down. So
Yeah.
that's where, I grew up beachcombing with my mom and just always being okay with being gritty and sandy.
Yeah, so that was your first exposure to the beach life, huh? And the
Right.
kid.
Yeah.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
and so given that that was part of your family trip experience, is that maybe why it was kind of special to you?
Yeah, it is. And it still is. Yeah,
I-
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how I ended up. Uh, I wanted to study at the University of Hawaii. I've always wanted to go to the beach and go to Hawaii, but I ended up down in South Padre. It was the next best thing.
Well, yeah, and so when I met you, you were in South Padre, Port Isabel, but you've also lived in Hawaii, and then you've been back to South Padre, back and forth. So yeah, maybe talk a little bit about how about the ocean and your connection, and what makes it special for you.
Yeah, there's something freeing and calming about the water and the waves. And of course, I started surfing on those family trips. My brothers, they all had huge surfboards. You know, they were super big. And my big brother Tommy, uh, got me up on a board, and the wave came, and he pushed me, and I stood up, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is so cool."
That
So
explains a lot. That explains a
yeah,
lot because by the time I met you, you were so confident on the water and surfing and all that.
yeah,
I wondered where it came from, and I guess it makes sense.
yeah.
Been
The
doing it all
family
your life.
always went to Padre or to Galveston or
Yeah.
some beach, Port Aransas. Yeah.
So, talked about Dallas and South Padre. I knew some of that, but there was a lot there that I didn't know. So tell us your Austin story. What brought you to Austin? And for those who don't know you, when was that? And how many times have you lived in Austin? What kind of changes have you seen and all that?
Well, I kind of have to go back to South Padre briefly just to kind of get to Austin because, I was just like I say in my song, Bayou Love Song, I was a young beach baby, living on the Gulf of Mexico. And I met my soon to be husband. He came off a shrimp boat. He was a great guitar player. So I said, well, look, I'm going to go get some, I'm going to get a keyboard. And I went and stole a piano from the Gulf Point or the Hilton. I stole a piano, drove it down the street. We played, met, that was it. We were together. And after we were together for a while, we were in a band. And I started wanting to do more with music. So I ended up going to Texas Southmost College and studying business music. And I took a couple of music courses. But then I got into the music department, and my band with my husband, he begrudgingly allowed me in the band, but ended up playing with another lead singer, another chick singer. I wasn't too thrilled about that.
Yeah.
So I was boo-hooing on the Texas Southmost College steps, crying about not having a good guitar player. And lo and behold, here comes Albert Bastetto.
Yeah.
Hey, Sharon, why are you crying? Because I need a guitar player, you know. And he goes, well, I'll play with you. And so I started playing with him, and then you. And then
Yeah.
you joined
Yeah.
the band, and we formed the Crustaceans.
We all know.
And that lasted quite some time. But then I eventually finished, got an associate degree at Texas Southmost College. And Albert was transferring at the same time. He actually sent me a letter that was an acceptance letter. It was so, I still have it too. I'll have to bring it up one of these days because he's
Wow.
like, you have been formally accepted to the University of Texas. So he was going to study business, and I came up to try out for the School of Music
Yeah.
and was barely accepted.
But you
So
made
that's
it.
how I got to Austin.
But you made it. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah,
and I've got some pictures. Maybe I'll see if I can share here in a little bit of those days. So so that was your first foray into Austin. You've been
yeah.
back a couple of times since then.
Yeah, I came to Austin, started studying music. I was divorced at that time, and a single mom going to the University of Texas was really hard, really hard. But I managed to finish, and I was a composition major, but then switched to music education so I would have employment upon graduation, and started teaching. Taught at Round Rock, at Grisham Middle School and Westwood High School as assistant choral
Mhm.
director. And yeah, things just went on from there. And then I went to Hawaii for a visit. My son was over there staying for a while, so I went to visit him and ended up getting a job teaching in Hawaii. So, but while I was going to teaching school and going to college, we formed another band, which was called The Technique with Kyle Judd. So I kind of came up here alongside of Albert to join a 7-piece band. That didn't pan out too well because I just wasn't ready for it. But then I met Kyle through Albert, and then eventually asked you to come back on board. And then we played as The Technique for a while.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some strange kismet that those reunions and reconnections happened. How did we do that before
I don't even
cell
know.
phones?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm gonna see if I can share my screen and try and bring up a couple of those pictures. So how good are you with Zoom? He asked himself.
To
Not that good, apparently.
share your
Well, here we
screen?
go.
Yeah, I
Can
think
you
you can
see
share
it?
your screen.
Well, tell me
It's
if you
coming
see it.
up.
Ah,
I know you're sharing it.
it says I'm screen sharing.
Yeah. He started
Maybe it's a
sharing.
bandwidth thing.
I don't know. There it is. Now I see it.
Yeah.
That's you in the background with
Uh-huh.
Albert, and that's my hair. And the
Yeah.
sax player, I
Oh,
forget his name.
yeah. I do too. All I remember is that he was going to the University of North Texas,
Oh,
uh,
good
and
school.
he loved to hear himself play. But I included this picture because it shows us actually playing, and if
Yeah.
because this other picture that shows us all full frontal, so to speak, doesn't have any instruments. We could have just been posing by any random
Right.
state. So there's
Yeah.
proof, and there's
What a
you,
good
the
looking
Albert
bunch.
De La Rosa kids. And then, of
Yeah.
course, the one and only picture that I have surviving of the technique. If it clicks forward here, I'm gonna have to get a better computer. There it is. There's Sharon
Oh,
with the keyboard,
yeah.
and there's Kyle Judd,
Oh my God, the 80s hair for
and then
me.
Mike with the blue acrylic drum set.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great picture. And
Yeah,
I was playing like a in-home clavinova was my keyboard. That's just a shame. And I don't know what I had on top of it, some kind of synthesizer or something.
yeah, crazy stories. I
Yeah.
think I got that bass guitar and that amp that's behind you in the head all for like I don't know $100. It was nuts.
Do you still have that
We were all
guitar?
I don't have any of it. I eventually found the bass online, and I bought it again. And then once I had made my peace with, because I lost it in a bad landlord deal.
Yeah.
uh, and speaking of things that you don't want to go into, but eventually I bought it back off of eBay, and I kept it for a few years. And then once I had made my peace with it, then I was able to get rid of it on my own terms. And
Right.
so yeah, you know how
Oh,
that
I
goes.
understand totally.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'm so happy to have been a little part of that Austin story with the technique.
Right.
Um,
And the South Pottery story.
yeah, oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. God, I mean, that was I mean that was my first musical experience that wasn't just me kind of jumping around my bedroom with a tennis racket and a credit card as a pick, pretending I was Eddie Van Halen, which wasn't going to happen anyway. But so you've got your keyboard right there. You've got your piano. Is there anything that you'd like to play for us today?
Sure. I could do perhaps the beginning of the Bayou Love song that tells the story of how I met Ellis.
Do what you like. As my grandmother would say, "Estás en tu casa."
Or I could do the
Yeah.
song but well, I'll talk about that other song. So I'll just do a little bit of the Bayou Love song.
Why don't we can come back again and do the other?
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one, Bayou Love song. It's all about South Potter Island and meeting my husband of them, my first husband. I was a young beach baby living on the Gulf of Mexico. I'd surf all day, party all night, now don't you know? He came on a ship from Louisiana, runner from the law. Wound up on Pottery Island, the hottest ship a man I ever saw. Oh well, we crewed the Penny Michael to get some shrimp and pay the rent. Wound up in Bayou Dulac where I entered in a pool tournament. Local girls didn't like me this until I started to win. And everybody in that bar became my best friend. He said he played guitar, I decided to put him to the test. I grabbed my keys and said I'll meet you at the trade winds, see if you're the best. Our beers were never empty and the tunes kept flowing alright. I don't remember much of when I woke up, I was ready to fight. I guess It's a Bayou love song was written in the stars that night.
Very cool. Is that how new is that one? I mean, I know you're writing about a long time ago, but
Right, that's a new one. It's new, and that was just a snippet of it. I didn't do the last verse. I'm in the studio right now with Chris Gage, the maestro, the Iron Man, producing my next album, which that song will be on.
so talk about that because we're getting to the point of the show where I wanted to ask you to talk about any projects that you've got going on. So why not start with that?
Very good. Well, I've recorded my first album, Rev, coming back from Hawaii, and then I recorded the next album, A Girl's Gotta Play, which was the next one. And then I recorded one more EP that I didn't really ever release. I just recorded it and I pressed it, but I never really made a big release about it because it's only 5 songs. So 3 of those songs I'm peeling off of that and re-recording over here. Some of my most popular songs like Gator Tough, Party Party Dance Dance, the one that's written for my mother, and 12, so there'll be 12 songs total. And so I already got everything recorded. I have a couple of more tracks to put down. We were recording the horns actually up until March 17th when it was like, time out.
Yeah.
Everything stopped.
Yeah.
It's like you could say it's the day the music died in Austin because it's kind of like that. It really is.
Yeah, and I know in the business area, it was Friday the 13th for people that
Yeah.
office workers.
Right, everyone. And it's just been so sad since. I mean, we all know. The 1-to-1, the last one that just went down, we're all heartbroken. I was doing my Women in Music series at 1-to-1. I had been doing it at the backstage. And due to some financial restraints at the backstage, I'd shifted it over to 1-to-1. And they, welcomed me with open arms. And I had some really good shows there. And then the last show I did there was with the Shiny Soul Sisters from Shiny Ribs, were my guests.
Wow.
And I did a recording of the song that I'm trying to put on a video, which actually I'm going to do, I'll talk about that in a minute, Next to Fall. And that was just on Fox News.
Yeah.
They put that up there. Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. So that song, Next to Fall, I just recorded with Chris Gage, and we got that all finished so that I could do a video with it. And I'm dedicating it and donating everything to House the Homeless, which is my buddy PJ.
Yep.
He leads that organization, and he's also the lead, the band leader for Rock and Gospel Project, Mr. Peace and Love himself.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of stuff we can touch on there. Why don't we start with that Rock and Gospel Project for a minute, because you guys, and I've been fortunate enough to get to go down and see that several times. You do Hippie Church. What is that? And obviously, let's talk in pre-pandemic times with their schedule. Was it the first Sunday of every month?
Yes, we played the first Sunday, but it went every Sunday. Leanne Atherton, I think, was the second or third Sunday. So there's always I think the Bell Sounds were also there. Several other bands would play on Hippie Church. And we were always the first Sunday.
And that's at the iconic Maria's Taco Express.
Yes.
Altamar.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And when I came back, Rock and Gospel Project was going through some changes, and I had worked with PJ at Unity Austin before I went to Hawaii. When I got back, Kyle was in the band, Will Dunlap, there was several other members that I knew. And I said, I want to play with y'all. Y'all don't have a keyboard player. And Kyle was like, oh, you don't want to play. Yeah, man. I was like, no. So I was kind of like the breath of fresh air that kind of lifted that band to continue, because they were kind of getting tired of themselves. And I said, no, there's such great potential here. So I think I've been with them, I don't even know how many years, 6, 7.
Yeah, it is definitely a very energetic show, and you guys always pack the house.
Yeah.
And there are always people dancing. It's
the body choir.
it's really such an Austin kind of experience.
Yeah.
I love it, and it's oh god, it sounds like such a wuss. It's a long drive in Austin terms, but
Yeah,
I love any
it
chance that
is.
we get to get down
It's a long drive from South Dallas.
there. So other musical projects. I was so oh, I mean, it wasn't just you, but several of my friends were in Spain a little around a year ago, including yourself and your band.
Mhm.
You want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure. I was fortunate, and it was kind of through Albert that connected me with Phil, and Leanne Atherton did too, saying, "Yeah, you really should come and do this play in Spain. They put you up, and you just have to buy your ticket, but they feed you and everything else." And I was like, "Well, heck yeah," you know. So I took my band over there, which was just a trio. It was just Eric Lycum and Grady Humble on the drums. But I had other people that set in with me over there when we went. So we were accepted to play there. It was such a blast. And of course, the first thing I do is I get on the bus with Joe King Carrasco. And I have a song that I give a shout out to Joe, and that's my song Party Party, you know. So I said, hey man, I kind of mentioned you in my song, give you a, and he goes, okay, cool, Joe King. He's like, cool, man. So he listens to it. The next day he goes, man, I like your stuff. He goes, you should play with me.
Yeah.
So by the end of the festival, I was doing a noontime, just Sharon and Friends show. I had Albert and other horn players and stuff come up. And so Joe King jumped up on stage and started playing with me. So
Yeah, that how has that worked out since then? I mean,
yeah, so I went back this year with Joe King, or the last year, and I went with him, and I also played with my band too. So I went over early with him to France and toured France for about 2 weeks,
wow.
and then my band joined us in Spain. So we went down through Spain, through France to Spain, and played different shows and just saw amazing places and met amazing people.
And that was part of La Mexican Air Force.
Yeah, I was a free Mexican Air
That's right.
Force.
That's right.
Joe always gives names to his,
Yeah, yeah,
his side people.
yeah. You had those side effects back in the before that.
Right.
And of course, the crowns way back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about Joe is I've loved Joe King. I have a picture of me in front of the stage with a bikini and my kid on my head, on my shoulders, seeing him play. And I saw him play open up for the Police. And I always just admired his keyboard player, Pink Chance. And I said, I want to be Pink Chance. And now I am.
I saw him open for the Police as well at the Summit in Houston. Again, we're dating ourselves.
It must have been the same tour.
Big tour, absolutely, absolutely. I think I at the time I heard it was the Go-Go's had gotten sick or something like that. Was why I read somewhere recently it was a similar connection. It wasn't sick. It was they recommended or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there was Joe King. Was that the picture with your kid on the shoulders? Was that on South Padre?
Yeah.
Okay, that must have been a big attraction because I know I was there that day too. I think it was a spring break, and if I'm not mistaken, Joe opened for Stevie Ray that day.
Yeah.
It was just incredible, and it happens. I think that Joe was filming or ended up filming the video to Party Party Weekend that day because you look at that video and you see same scenes. You're like, I was there, and so yeah,
we were there.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah,
we were there. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, his current girlfriend was his nurse when he would like faint on stage, kind of like, and she'd lift him up and stuff. And he was always jumping off stage and actually hurting himself. But
yeah.
So Nicole is they're back together, and that's so cool.
Yeah.
That now I know her and got to stay at her house in France and everything.
That's great. And I saw some pictures recently of Joe back in town, and so I don't know if you saw those, but.
Yeah, and he recorded with he did some recording with Rick Del Castillo. I just sent him a message today and said, hey, there's some outdoor gigs coming up. Let's get busy. So hopefully,
yeah,
playing again.
That'd be awesome. Do you have any upcoming gigs or events that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to be playing this Thursday at Guero's, 6 to 8, and I'll have a different band with me. I'll have Mark Epstein bass, Kevin Hall on drums, and Paul Klimper on saxophone.
Okay.
So I'm really glad that Bob Fuentes has connected with me. I did some gigs at Botticelli's when we first started opening up, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to have you over," and I was like, "Yes."
No,
So yeah, so I have that coming up. Also, I do my live stream every Monday,
that's
and
right.
this Monday will be no different at 6:30. I also have some gigs out at Planet Rock Distillery out in Hudson Bend on Lake Travis, or by Lake Travis.
Yeah, that's a nice place. And for folks that might be looking for a place to go to get out and listen to music,
Exactly.
I had the pleasure of going to that Guerrero show a couple of weeks ago, and folks
That's
were
right.
there. The social distancing was outstanding. It's really
Yeah.
what I would have expected, right? What I would have
Right.
hoped. So there was no cover. You walked in and looked around. There were no crowded tables. It was usually parties
Right.
of 2 or 3, maybe 4 people if they were all together.
Yeah.
And folks, you just kind of know the deal, right? If somebody's sitting there, that's not where you're going to go sit. You're going to look for
Yeah.
a place. The social distancing was fine. It was great. So I definitely would recommend that. And,
Yeah. Thursday, 6 to 8. I'm
yeah.
not sure what day that is. I think it's the 27th.
Well, we're gonna when I send this out, we'll link to your page
Okay.
and obviously share that along with it and include any other dates you'd like to mention. You said you had a second tune you might want to play.
Oh yeah. Well, it's the tune that I just talked to the videographer at church about putting. I've been working on this video to raise awareness for homelessness. It's called Next to Fall, and I could play a couple of. I could play just like a verse and chorus of that, but I'm going to be starting a fundraiser on Facebook. I don't know
Okay.
what they're called these days. A fundraiser.
Yeah.
Yeah, a fundraiser.
Crowdsourcing.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to raise $500, and that's not much,
Yeah.
to pay the videographer and editor to put this video together. And I know it's going to be really slick, and I know it's going to be meaningful, and it's going to highlight housethehomeless.org. And I just hope that it does a lot of good.
All right. Well, let's hear some of it.
Okay. So. He was there all alone by the side of the road with everything he owned. Sad state of affairs as everybody stares into his home. Once he was gray and everybody came when he played his song. That was years ago. No one listens anymore. His soul is torn. How do you go from doing well to living on the streets of hell? And if we do nothing, how can we live with ourselves? No one seems to care at all. But what if you're the next to fall? But what if you're the next to fall?
Wow. Wow. The audience loves it. I've heard lots of your songs, Sharon, and I love everything I've heard, but this one I've got goosebumps. That's
Oh, thank
thank
you.
you for that. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So
Heartfelt.
yeah, clearly, and it's really kind of there's some classic blues and jazz modalities in there that you do so well. You do so well.
Thank you.
So as we kind of approach the horizon here, if you had this entire lovely audience, thousands and thousands of people are watching, you had them all in one room. What words or message would you like to leave them with?
Oh, absolutely. Find your passion. Stay in touch with your dreams and stay in touch with your heart. Keep an open heart and an open mind. All things are possible.
All right. All right. Sharon Bourbonnais. Sharon, thank you again for being my first guest on the show. I hope you'll come back and see us again.
Thank you,
For our
Raul.
audience, thanks for tuning in. Please like our Facebook page, share the public video link. Stay tuned for future shows, including Austin's own musical power couple, Deanne Renee and Chris Brown, and Austin author, Patrice Sareth. Thanks again for tuning in. Sharon, I love you. Thanks so much again. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Take care, y'all.
You too.
All right.
Bye.